This is the Aftermatch with Kirsten Beav. Come for the rugby, stay for the aftermatch. You may notice things look a little bit different today because Beav is heading away on a rugby trip to some island in... What part of the world is it even in? I have no idea, Beav. I was going to say South Pacific, but that is so far wrong.
Yeah, look, Chris,
What ocean or sea?
Yeah, Caribbean, I think. I'm jumping on a plane tonight to go do some coaching and some speaking at a rugby club over in the Caribbean, roughly, I'm going to say. I know I fly into New York.
Caribbean.
I fly into New York, and then there's a connection. Look, I haven't had time to look at the logistics, but yes, off tonight. I'll send some pictures.
Beav, people want an apology.
What
People
for?
want an apology. Okay, can I just read you a couple of messages? Instant reaction. Here we go. Gaza, 99, says, Beaver, the anti-Crusader, never learns. TC, I want a public apology from Beaver when the Crusaders win. Well, it's Tuesday, and TC will get his apology today. And the third and final instant reaction that I'll read to you was from Golden Ack. Love all these North Island media commentators and podcasters, everyone picking the Blues. Have they learned nothing over the years? What is the definition of crazy? Doing the same thing over and over again. And that is why Kirst will keep getting her picks right. So, Beav, over to you to apologise to the great people.
Yes, to all you Crusaders fans. Look, I don't know if an apology is needed. I just spoke my mind, and I know you mainland people love someone that speaks their mind. It was a wonderful game of footy. It was a flip of the coin game, and yes, Crusader curse tipped right and takes away the title.
The Blues could have easily won that game is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it was a great game, wasn't it? It was a great game.
To be fair, how did they not send it to extra time?
Yeah, it was compelling viewing, though, and I mean, I know we're going to dive deeper into it, Kirst, but the Blues were up 14-0 and looking $1 million there after 20 minutes.
Before we do get into looking at the semi-finals, you have had an interesting couple of days. You went to field days on Friday in Hamilton, but I couldn't help but notice that you were alongside a couple of other Kiwi legends. The Three Musketeers, Stephen Donald, Matt Watson, the fishing guru,
yes,
and our war hero, Willie Apiata.
Yeah.
At the Toyota stand at field days.
Yes, lucky enough to be a part of the Toyota stand there. And look, obviously, you know, I'm a fisherman, love my fishing. So Matt Watson is a hero, but is also a good friend. So great catching up with him. But Willie Apiata, obviously, New Zealand's real hero. Obviously, hero gets thrown around loosely, certainly in sport. But when it comes to a hero, he obviously is that. Hadn't seen him since he came and talked to us about 2 days out from the World Cup final, Kirsten, in 2011. So obviously always in awe, of a man like that. And yeah, great to be on the stand with him. He did beat me in the truck towing competition, which I was a little bit disappointed with, because not that I'd sort of parade myself as any physical specimen. However, he had done 4 up until my turn, and what I'd noticed is you're really fatigued on your score on the pool there, on the Toyota pool, and somehow he found another gear and still pipped me. So there you go. He's something else. Is our hero Willie Apiata?
He is such a hero. Like, imagine the stories that he can't tell or share in the situations that guy has been in. Victoria Cross recipient, of course, the highest of high. Do you remember what he said when he came into camp, or are you allowed to share it? Probably not, before the World Cup final. Well,
to be fair, I think back then he was actually offloading and talking about a few things he probably can't and what have you. But no, because I mean, then it was only a few years after him actually receiving the VC. You know, I guess we were just all in absolute awe of him, and yeah, he told us what life's been like since that, and it's just a fascinating tale of a man who is, as I said, a true hero. So you got to meet many heroes over the weekend, not just Willie Apiata or hanging out with Matt Watson on the stand, but Stephen Larkham. You got to interview your other childhood hero and sit alongside
Jeff Wilson on the weekend. It was like meet your heroes all in one go.
Yes, I mean, Goldie, I'll never say it's getting stale with being, but it's I see Goldie 2 days a week now. And so, he's still my hero from back in the day. But yes, look, Stephen Larkham, someone who I grew up and then was lucky enough to play a few years against, tried to emulate a lot. We've talked about how I even tried to wear headgear one game when I was still at school and worked out headgear's not for me. But look, it wasn't in a situation where I could have much jovial conversation with Bernie Larkham. He was obviously off the loss of another semi-final, and you can see why he was the man he was. He was devastated. Such a competitor. Only knows winning, and he was almost lost for words. I mean, he had lots of words to say, but I think what he really wanted to say he couldn't say. So he was gutted. Pretty
amazing though. When you talk to different coaches, as we do on Sky Television afterwards, he was instantly able to pick out so many moments across the game and analyse where they went wrong, whereas some coaches have to go back, look at footage, they need a couple of days. Not that guy. He knew every single moment of that 80 minutes played.
Yeah, and I think it was the moments that were nothing to do with the Chiefs. I think it was the moments to do with his own team and not being able to get over that hurdle of mental pressure in those big games. And we talked a lot about it in the build-up around can the Brumbies find the way to get past it. And unfortunately for Brumbies and Brumbies fans, again, it's another semi-final loss for the proud franchise.
One thing that Stephen Larkham did mention in the post-match with you was the scoreboard pressure that the Chiefs were able to put on. And Clayton McMillan mentioned it as well, right? The Chiefs taking their 3 points in that first half.
Yeah, they took their threes. And for me, the scoreboard pressure was massive because for that first 20, 25 minutes, I thought the Brumbies' game plan, I thought how they were executing was very similar to the Blues. And I thought, geez, these boys are on tonight. They've done their homework. They know what it's going to take to win here in Hamilton. But you mentioned that scoreboard pressure. As soon as they got 3 behind or 6 behind, they went away from their plans, I thought. They started to run the odd one back and get themselves in trouble in that own 40 metres and that own 50 metres where in that first 20, 25 minutes, so efficient, they were playing territory. And then as the pressure mounted, more rash decisions came out, more just playing for the sake of playing and going nowhere, and then just inviting the Chiefs in to get penalties, to get field position or get points. And I think that's what Stephen Larkham, when he was scratching around at the end of the game in our interview, he was really highlighting the fact that, again, we sort of hit a bit of self-destruct at times.
How big a difference on the scoreboard do you think it was losing Noah Lolesea so early on?
Yeah, we'll never know, will we? It's the $1 million question.
Surely closer than 20 points.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And for the reasons I've just highlighted, would have he been the one back there keeping a calm head? Look, I thought Wright was outstanding. Again, absolutely brilliant at fullback, but there wasn't much of a help as far as good decisions being made in the backfield. And I know I just say backfield flippantly, but it's in the backfield where these decisions are hurting teams when they make the decisions to chance their arm or make the decisions to go to rucks, and then the Chiefs fly in, and you're making your forwards go all the way back to then carry a couple of slow rucks to then either kick, or if you don't get to that kick, you've been turned over, and the Chiefs start applying the pressure, and it was just so noticeable. And yep, Lolesea, he was looking good to start with as well. So we'll just never know, Curse. Unfortunate. It was probably the one injury that they couldn't afford to have, and they had it.
Now, talking about main men, I know there's been a lot of talk about Damian McKenzie, that try-saver. Yeah, it was incredible. But having Luke Jacobson, Beav, and Quinn Tupaia back, their impact across 80 minutes in that game.
Yeah, leadership was huge. Both of them contributed to that. Obviously, Luke's the captain, but Luke was getting turnover penalties at the breakdowns. He was obviously defending as he always does. The Brumbies weren't getting much of a roll on in and around that area. I mean, at times, even though when they were looking quite good in that first 15 or 20 minutes, they literally played a sort of 20 phases in front of us on the halfway line, just going nowhere because the defence was so well organised. Quinta Paya, massive again. I think he unlocks Damian a bit. There's often very good midfielders in that Chiefs outfit, but for me, the experience and confidence now that Quinta Paya has, I think he unlocks Damian. I think he's a good voice for Damian. He's a very intelligent footballer. And then you've just got his lines he runs, and you have to want to get in front of him. And he was denting the Brumbies at every time. And we've all seen and we've all talked about in the last 16, 17 weeks, when the Chiefs can get momentum, they are too tough to handle for most of these teams. And it proved the case. Quinta Paya gets momentum. Then Tupou Vai comes around the corner, Wallace Atiti, and the go forward just continues.
Damian McKenzie, Beav. Last week we talked about the duel between him and Beauden Barrett and that maybe Bodie slightly had the edge. This week, surely it swings back in favour of Damian McKenzie after what we've just seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Damian was brilliant. He is off my Christmas card list, it has to be said, though, because that try saver, I needed that in a same-game multi. I needed the margin to be 30.
What was your same-game multi?
I had over 53 points, tick, and I had the Brumbies with a 13.5-point start. So that try to right would have brought my same guy multi to fruition. And Damian cost me that, just trying to be a hero. He didn't need to do that. We could have just called it quits on that, but I'll allow it on this occasion. But yeah, I'm not going to be sending him a Christmas card, that's for sure.
Obviously, the ground was really dewy, so he was able to slide with Tom Wright.
Yes.
But how difficult is that?
Well, the miracle side of it is the fact that it was his inside arm. So when you first saw it, you instantly thought, if he's held up, he's obviously his tackling arm is probably on Wright's back, and he's somehow got his other hand in close enough and just got it underneath the ball. But he's somehow twisted his body and got his inside arm underneath the ball, which I guess means, Curse, all along, he wasn't just trying to get there to sort of be a gallant effort and force the conversion to be wide. He was looking at the ball, trying to work out how he was going to get under it. And obviously he's got extreme speed. Interesting to note, though, Kirst, little sideline fact for you. You talk about the sliding aspect. They chose not to put the anti-Jew on this week.
Why is that? They had it last week against the Blues.
Did they have
and last week they lost.
Did they have a theory that Australians with a bit of a greasy top might not adjust to it as well? I don't know. But I just found that a little bit of side information out from the great groundsman KJ. And it was...
Oh, that's interesting.
They chose not to have the anti-Jew on there.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, sticking with this game, we're going to do our Richie Mo medalist.
Yes.
Of course, our MVP of the final series. Last week, I'll just give you an update of the scoreboard. Beauden Barrett got 3 points. Ethan Blackadder got 2 points and Tom Wright got a single point. To be fair, there's an argument that Tom Wright could get another point again this week.
Yes.
If you look across the four teams and the players that stood out to you, Beav, who are your 3-2-1 this week?
Yeah.
You've only got 3 weeks. This is a short, sharp race to the Richie Mo medal.
Yeah.
Who are you going?
Yeah, respectfully to Wright, who was as good as most on the field. Unfortunately, I'm going to pick winners this week for my points. So Damian gets 3. I thought his performance was absolute, as good as it gets. His goal kicking, sensational. You mentioned the try saver, but just his all-round control, his all-round kicking, his all-round general threat with the ball in hand was brilliant. Here's one that's going to make people fall off their couches, drive off the road potentially, but I've found a prop to give one. And I'm not.
That's the first time all year, Beav.
And I'm giving him 2 actually, and it's Newell. I thought, obviously it was clear and obvious what he was doing. Scrum time, huge pressure on both the Blues feeder and rock solid on Crusaders feeds, but around the park, there was just a velocity about his work, which was so impressive. Ably backed up by his mate on the other side as far as Bauer goes. Obviously, no Tamaiti that week. And, of course, 1 point goes to a guy, Curse, who just had a look about him that had, I don't know, it looked like he wasn't leaving the field a loser. When he scored his second try, I'm talking about Will Jordan, it was just, right, give me the ball, I'm going to try and score. And it was just a case, I think you could see it in his eye there, that he was up like I don't think we've seen too often.
I was going to say, there was a bit of Rieko Ioane about Will Jordan on the weekend. Like, he was getting into them. He was hyping the crowd up. He just showed a totally different level of competitor that I don't think we've ever seen from Will Jordan.
And it was brilliant to see. It's a semi-final against the Blues, isn't it? So, no, it was magnificent to see Will Jordan's performance. Geez, there was a lots of heroes for both victorious teams, I thought, over the weekend, Kirsten, and could have gone to a lot of them.
Geez, Ethan Blackadder was big again, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Scott Barrett. There were so many heroes, as you said.
Yeah, and again, it's that forward pack, what the Crusaders' foundations have been built on over the years. And Blackadder,
what about when his eye was pouring out with blood and he just looked like the ultimate warrior? I just saw his dad in there.
Yes.
I saw him hoisting the trophy and bringing Canterbury and the mainland to a head once again.
Yeah, well, with Blackadder too, he's been so impactful for the last few weeks and everyone's sort of sitting up and taking notice. But essentially, it's also the fact that he's actually staying on the field and he's being able to get game after game on. And I mean, now, what is it, 4 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks since he's returned? And he's just getting better every week. And as you say, pretty influential leader as well. Maybe not big on the words, but the way he throws himself around in that Crusaders jersey, you can see that they all follow.
So what did the Crusaders do for 60 minutes of that match, why they looked to be in the box seat?
I thought Willie and his influence in that last 60 minutes, once obviously there was a few issues with cards as well, they seem to find a way. Willie, a lot of people look at Willie and see this sort of wide-ranging second five as far as his skill set. I guess a little bit of it is actually forced upon just because he's got a young 9 and 10 and he sees himself as someone that can take some responsibility off them. And even though he's wearing a 12 jersey, he can still be a game manager as such. And so he's taking a bit more kicking roles than most 12s in this country would. Obviously, voice-wise, you can see that he is the leader out there. There were some big moments, I thought, Kirst, that were intriguing to me, particularly.
Tell us.
Well, particularly in that second half. And look, hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. But I'll say it about both teams. I was staggered watching that second half when it had become very apparent to anyone watching this was going to be a one game score, And so you're looking at that, and the Crusaders, they turned down kickable threes the entire second half. I will give them their credit. They've done it most of the year, and I will also sort of understand the philosophy because they were starting to get scrum dominance. And when they got down there, they probably were confident that they could get more penalties or even better when it came to scrum time. But the one that really shocked me was the tap that the Blues took 5 out, I don't know, maybe 10 off centre. Like Bodie throws it over, and they play from 17-14 as opposed to leaving it 14, trying to get a try to go 21-14. I get it that rugby's changed and you can go up in sevens, but in a semi-final and it's 14 all on a Friday night in Christchurch and you're the Blues, I couldn't understand why you wouldn't want to play from 17-14 with half an hour to go. I don't think, and maybe I'm over reading it, I don't think you can underestimate the fact of the scoreboard and knowing that all of a sudden, what does that do to the Crusaders? If the Crusaders are down 17-14 and they get a penalty around that 40-metre or 50-metre, are they still kicking to touch and going, oh, we'll go for 7 here? Or do they say, nah, this could go, who knows how this game's going to fold. We've got to go 17 all here. It blew my mind, to be honest with you.
Here's another momentum shifter then, Beav. That moment of madness from Hoskins to Tutu when he has a go at Ethan Blackadder and it turns into an all-in and the penalty's reversed. And instantly the Blues are back under pressure.
Yeah, look.
That was a moment. Will Jordan ends up scoring off the back of that.
Yes. And look, I love sitting back on the couch on a Friday night with my bag of chips, seeing a feeling and seeing a bit of spite and the niggle, because you can't see punches anymore. That's cool. But, I don't mind that stuff. But I can imagine Vern and Hoskins looking back on that and going, jeez, if we'd had our time again. you know, and then the Crusaders gone, right, we got him. And that's also what teams are like. If teams know there's somebody that they might be able to get something out of, there will be niggle. And there will be bait thrown that way.
They did get him.
They
did get him. And no more social media posts from Rieko Ioane over the weekend. All silent on the home front. But we do need to give Rieko credit, Beav, because he has become the outright Blues all-time try scorer. Rieko's going to keep on climbing too. How many more years will he be around the Blues for?
Well, exactly. I mean, obviously having next year off, but he'll be through to the next World Cup, which we all know. I've loved the impact that it's had from an interest point of view, from a character point of view, and I guess spicing things up. And you can't tell me that the Crusaders weren't exactly aware of it or hadn't talked about it, because there was a lot of niggle, a lot of chat going on. I can't help but think Sevier Reese trying to shush his own crowd on full time might have been something to do with a reply.
Okay, before we talk about this final and the storylines,
yes,
the history, the records, there is so much to get excited about with this final. But some more instant reaction, and we see it, we read everything. So here are a few from your Crusaders all-time 15 team, which was the hardest all-time 15 to pick. A lot of people in the same category, they would have gone Brad Thorne over Blackadder.
Yeah, and on playing...
You consulted Marshy.
I consulted Marshy, and on playing ability, probably yes. But from a franchise point of view and what he meant and did for that franchise, it'd be also interesting to know the age of these people that made those comments, because I think if you're a little bit younger, you would definitely say Brad Thorne. But no, what I'm meaning is, back in the day, Blackadder was the most loved Crusader that there was, Kirst. Like, when he was winning titles, he was Mr. Popular. So I just think he got them started. And when you talk about iconic Crusaders, you had to go there.
Okay, so everyone, next time you post a question, can you post your age just so that Beaver can
come on.
Get a hand?
I'm trying to cover. I'm trying not to be, because what's the most common thing? Recency bias. Everyone goes with the recent teams, you know, so you had to.
Do you know what's really interesting, Beav, talking about what you're saying, is that when we put that poll out there on who should be the Crusaders all-time 10, 99% of people on TikTok said Richie Mo'unga.
Yep.
Young generation.
Who's on TikTok? Yeah. Young people.
Exactly.
Yep.
On Instagram, 99% of the people said Dan Carter, and on YouTube, 90% said Andrew Mertens. So there's three different generational groups across three totally different social media channels. So the age thing is important.
Yeah, and I imagine if we still had a Bebo channel, then Mertz would have definitely won the Bebo channel.
You might have got a few votes on Bebo too, Beav. This one's from Catonic Chick. And it says, DC is the one and only obvious choice at 10. I can't accept a weak, in quotation marks, can only play what's in front of you argument as a reason to pick someone else at 10.
How do I pronounce, is it?
I don't know. I think it's Catonic Kiwi 8310.
Or is it Katona Nikki Wee? I don't know. But 8310, I'm going to call you.
I don't think it's that.
Okay, I might have butchered that one.
You've just put Nikki in the middle of Kiwi.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You have to use the argument of play what's in front of you. Look, who do I think's the world's greatest first five of all time? It's Daniel Carter. You know, and unfortunately, I played in the same era, and I know exactly how good he was. And if I was picking a team to save my life, then I pick him. But you cannot argue that Richie has not got 7 titles on the trot, has been the man to get them there. And so I made the decision. I had to bump Carter to 12. And I know people will say, oh, the era. It's no fault of Richie Mo'unga's that the African teams have left and gone to the north.
He was playing what's in front of him.
Play what's in front of you, which is a great thing. A great thing to do as a 10. Play what's in front of you.
Richie did reply and said, thanks, Beav, it's an honour. So very grateful to be included in your Crusaders all-time 15. Here's another. Samuel Longhurst said the B team backline would be epic. Alice, Mertens, Major, Tapoki, Gear, Nandolo, McDonald. That would give the number one side a wee run for their money.
Oh, exactly. And I don't even know if I agree with Samuel's B time backline. I'd sort of wonder if someone like Berryman would have to have been included in all of that. And Ralphie would have probably warranted some selection of sorts too. But I think that Samuel's message there really does highlight the depth that they've had.
When you're talking depth, the Crusaders, 14 titles going for 15 in less than a week's time at a place, at home, where they just do not lose, Beav.
Yep.
This final has got every single storyline imaginable. Let me run through a few things to get you hyped up for this one. Clayton McMillan, one of the best coaches in New Zealand right now, but not won a title yet in his final game. Crusaders never lost a playoff match. 31-0. Never, ever lost at home in a playoff game. That is since, 1998? Clayton McMillan's final act. The Crusaders, when you're talking coaches, to have the bravery to do a review and to keep Rob Penny on board. They weren't getting rid of him despite what they went through last year, missing out on the playoffs, the worst season in that franchise's record since 1996, and they kept him as the head coach. James O'Connor, Beav, has he ever won a Super Rugby title? Or did he have to move to New Zealand, to the Crusaders, to win his first Super Rugby title, if it's to be?
No, I'm sure he hasn't, because where would have he been?
He hasn't.
No.
He hasn't won a title. George Bauer has been a hero for them since Tamaiti Williams was injured. And I don't imagine that Tamaiti Williams will be back from that injury for the final. George Bauer cruelly ruled out of the Rugby World Cup. He was over there doing media for New Zealand Rugby's broadcast show. And now all of a sudden, he's the number one for the Crusaders. This final, Beef, has got everything.
Yeah, it certainly has. And when you rattle off what you've just talked about, it is special. You could, when you look at it from a Chiefs point of view, going down there, you could theme this a million different ways. Like it would be
How are you theming it, Beav? How are you theming it? Get us up.
Well, how would I theme it? Look, I think I used Why Not You last week with the Blues. And,
you hated that.
And that didn't quite work. But I wonder if you just build this massive house made of glass and then just take to it with a sledgehammer in the meeting room and saying we're going to go break it down, the 30-0 thing. I don't know. Well, that's what I'd potentially go with, Kirst. But no, I just think there's so much motivation that you can strap around it. But also, you look at it from the Crusaders' point of view, they're not going to be short of it. They obviously went through what would be sporting hell last year for them and not being a part of it. And obviously Rob Penny, we don't know how close it got, but, they did the right thing and stayed with him. I mean, his record speaks for itself. He's been a wonderful coach over his whole career. So it would have been silly to have thrown him out then and there. But there's also a storyline where there's a group of Chiefs there, and I think you touched on it, that they've been to the finals, but they still haven't got across the line. And the calibre of player that they have in that group, they should have won one by now. So you've got that aspect too, and that's another storyline, that what's burning away for them, or all of a sudden, is there an aspect of doubt for them, creeping in, like we knew the Brumbies probably had last week that they couldn't get past? I don't think so, knowing what sort of characters they are. But who knows? Does that sneak in when they get on that plane and go down to Christchurch? And the fact it's at Christchurch, it's the last game at the stadium, you'd imagine.
No, they'll be playing there at the start of next season. April's the start of that's when officially the new stadium is opened.
Yes.
But it'll be the last final there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got all this to look forward to. And every day that passes, I change my mind about how the result looks. I know what I want the result to look like, but it's going to be something else.
Okay, I want to look at a couple of things. Firstly, what do both teams learn from that 2023 grand final? The Chiefs going to have another one of those line-out moves?
The one that got called back? Look.
Because he was too fast, remember?
Yes. No, look, I think what they would have possibly learnt from that final and last year's final is you've got to adjust. You've got to adjust the way that you're going to play. You've got to adjust to conditions. You've got to adjust to the moment. You've got to be prepared. And I'm talking more from a Chiefs point of view at times. They go through the gears and they get to sort of fifth gear and they want to stay there and go there full noise regardless of the time, the score or what have you. I think what they would have surely learnt from that final in particular, where they had it won against the Crusaders and they tried to keep the foot down and keep playing, as opposed to, right, now it's time to just play territory, make them go 80 metres on us, make them go 90 metres. I just think they would have learnt how to handle those big moments, those big minutes, Curse, more than anything. That's what you'd hope as a Chiefs fan, if there's anything from 2023 still in the mind that you've got to manage.
What about the two results this year? Round 2, February the 21st, the Chiefs won 49-24. When they took them on, about a couple of months later, Chiefs go down to Christchurch and win 35-19. Combine those scores, two massive aggregates. What did the Crusaders learn from those, considering the Chiefs have gone down there and done it down there this year?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at it from a Crusaders point of view, what are the Crusaders going to really hone in on this week? For me, they look at those two games and see where the Chiefs got the better of them, and they'll look at the Blues quarterfinal victory in Hamilton and look at that, because for all the flack that the Blues get around how they play the game, as far as ignoring the Ferraris out the back, the Crusaders play fairly similar. And if they're going to beat the Chiefs this weekend, they are going to play pretty much identical. So if you amalgamate all those, if you're looking at it through your Crusaders lenses, how are you going to beat the Chiefs? They have to go after their set piece. They have to go after their set piece at line-out time to disrupt, and not just disrupt, but even win the Chiefs line-out ball. Obviously, the scrum's going to be fascinating. A little bit dependent on whether we see Tamaiti Williams back, but Bauer, as you've mentioned, doing such a great job. They will fancy their chances there of at least making it a bit scrappy for platform. Why I talk about why the Crusaders need to focus in on the Chiefs' set piece is because the set piece delivery has an exact flow on to the speed and the momentum that the Chiefs will play at. So if they can disrupt that, win it even better, but if they can disrupt that, then the Chiefs won't get their go forward. If they don't win that first collision, be it a Quinn Tupaia, be it a Wallace out there, Sammy Penifina, depending on how they launch, if they don't win that first collision, then you don't get that ruck speed, because you don't then get Tupou Vai coming around being able to either carry, use his late footwork, or even pass to his other forward that's coming around the corner with him. Instead, if they win that set piece, make it messy for them, Quinn Tupaia gets a neutral sort of carry on, Chrissy over the ball hard, all of a sudden that's a slow ruck. Then Vai's just coming around and carrying. And I know it seems quite almost minuscule as far as the grand scheme of things. I'm convinced that if the Crusaders are going to win, they are going to have to slow the Chiefs down. And that, I think, is how you go about doing it. It's how the Blues did it. The Blues really went after the Chiefs' line-out and forced errors at line-out time, and the Chiefs never got into the game against the Blues as far as what we'd seen all year with this style of football, with the interchange, with Damian McKenzie, Cortez Lartimer, Stevenson just swinging from side to side off momentum. So for me, the Crusaders will go at them at set piece and that first ruck. And the other thing the Crusaders will do well, and they will have discipline to this, and they won't fall into the trap of the Brumbies. They will stick very similar to what the Blues did, is they will kick a lot of ball. And their back three, I suggest, won't get bored. And I know it's a funny thing to say, but you often talk about it going into big games. You say, don't get bored and staying in the kick battle. And as far as not getting bored means taking that run when maybe you shouldn't, or trying a chip kick as opposed to, I'm going to smack it long and make them come back. So I think the Crusaders will zero in to win the game against the Chiefs. They will zero in on set piece. They will zero in on that first collision to slow the Chiefs' ruck speed down, and then they're going to play the territory game. That's how I would think the Crusaders will go at the Chiefs.
So do what they have done so well across
Absolutely.
14 of their titles. What is the keys for the Chiefs then?
Well, I mean,
How do they play?
well, you flip it on its head, really, don't you? So for the Chiefs, they can't get caught into a dour one-off game. And I know people are sitting back going, well, hang on, Beav, it's a finals footy. It's not like the free and easy round-robin games. But I understand that. But you can also play at a tempo and still be confrontational and physical. Don't for 1 minute think I don't think the Chiefs want to go and physically go after them too. But they want to go after them physically at pace. And by what that means is they're going to get their set piece. They've got to win their set piece. And then they're going to throw Quintapire into it. And then they're going to bring around their ball carriers. And then soon as you get momentum, what does that mean? It means the Crusaders' defence can't set. And then that's when McKenzie and Latimer in particular can cause all sorts of havoc. Narawa is in some form at the moment. You've got to take your head off to Narawa, Carter, Stevenson if he's there. So those boys only come into the game if they can get across the advantage line, and then they can go on the back of Tupou Vai, Wallace Satiti, the other big carriers, to then get their game going. So for me, it's the Chiefs. They've just got to really zone in on their set piece, get that first collision, and then everything flows. And then when you think about the last two finals, they've got to play the moment. And by playing the moment, I mean, boys, if we're up by 10, you might feeling good. You might want to run in one. You might want to attack from 50 or 60, but it's not the time for that. It's go down into their corner, kick it down there, and go again. And I just feel that the way that they're playing at the moment, and they have all season, I think their mentality is locked in on that. The fact that they are by far the, I guess, prominent team when it comes to taking shots at goal curse. I think there's been a little bit of a change of mentality for the Chiefs as far as, yep, there's no point trying to win by 100 if you lose by 2, and I think that might be just a little bit of a mentality shift for the boys who have in the past been balls out for 80 minutes and just wanted to win as big as they could.
You might argue with me here, but I'm just thinking about the two teams that will be named on Wednesday to run out for this final. In most areas, they probably cancel each other out. But there's a couple that favour the Crusaders. Front row would favour the Crusaders,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Locks cancel each other out. Loosies, you'd say, cancel each other out. Fullback, obviously, advantage Crusaders. But if you look at the outside backs as a whole, fairly even, midfield even. But in the one position, the driver's seats at 9 and 10, the Chiefs have got Cortez and Damian McKenzie. So technically, if that's the difference in the position that differ, the Chiefs should win this game.
Yeah, when you look at that, that's why so much onus for the Crusaders will be on numbers 1 to 8. Because they know that that's what happens if they don't dominate. If they don't dominate, then that 9 and 10 from the opposition can play their game. And that is everything that the Crusaders forward pack is going to be trying to cancel out this week. They don't want to be going backwards to things. And not going backwards. They're not going to go backwards at scrum time. But what I'm saying is they're not wanting to go backwards to that first ruck. Because if they're going backwards to that first ruck, they know their next job's not going to be nice either, because they're going to be backpedaling, and then they're dealing with guys like Latimer and McKenzie coming at them at pace. So huge responsibility there for them. The loose forward trio, that battle is, you mentioned the cancelling out of maybe the Locks, maybe Crusaders have the front row edge, but that loose forward trio, massive for the game. When you think about everything I've talked about around the speed of ball and how that's going to affect each team's success, but also ramifications for an All Black team. When you think of Leo Willie, Sammy Penny-Finau, I think Lee Jacobson's a lock. He's in. Like, he's not on the selection cusp.
I think Leo Willie's a lock.
Well,
we're going to name that team shortly, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many good loose forwards at the moment, and obviously,
what about Tom Christie? Tom Christie has been outstanding for the Crusaders.
Well, you talk about
he's been a workhorse, and he never even gets mentioned.
Well, you talk about storylines and the Rob Penny comeback. Well, what about Tom Christie? About 2023, he was in the conversation as to, geez, he must be close to knocking on the door of the All Blacks. Last year, I can't remember if it was injury or what, he just drops off the face of the earth, And then this year, still at the start of the season, he might have been mentioned here and there in a 23 or what have you. But the last, month and a bit, he's been their main 7 again and doing what I guess 2023 looked like for him.
Yeah, keeping Cullen Grace on the bench, pushed Ethan Blackett at a 6.
Yeah.
It has been so interesting. That guy's been really, really good for the Crusaders. Have you looked at the conditions in Christchurch for Saturday night? And do you think when the Chiefs lost that first round playoff match and they knew really that they were going to be going to Christchurch, that's why they took the anti-dew spray off?
Oh, preparing.
They were preparing.
Well,
they know what the weather's going to be like down there. It'll be cold, it'll be slippery, and it'll be miserable.
Well, any fisherman always checks his week ahead just to see if there's any window that he can get out on his boat. So I've obviously done that, and then I've jumped across.
Give it to us.
I've jumped across to Christchurch, and look, you've got to take a long view forecast with a bit of a grain of salt because they aren't always accurate, but the latest I have seen is slight drizzle between the hours of 11 and 2 p.m. on Saturday, grand final day. But from 2 p.m., I do believe it's clear.
Okay.
There you go.
But it'll be wet. The ground will be wet.
Yeah, there'll be a bit of
and
dew.
it will be freezing.
Yeah, I think at kickoff it was maybe 3 degrees. So, yeah, take your jacket along.
Oh, that grand final is going to be something else. Where will you be watching the grand final from, by the way?
Look,
you're not on the plane, are you?
No. I'll be finding an establishment in the land of where I'm trying to still do my logistics of.
Okay, we look forward to seeing where you watch it from. The All Blacks. By the time we come back on the podcast next week, the All Blacks. We've got so much to talk about. We'll be wrapping up the Super Rugby final. We'll be wrapping up the 2025 Super Rugby season, and the All Blacks squad will be named to the 35-man squad. So, Beav. Let's go through the predicted after-match All Blacks 35-man squad. We'll go through positionally.
Yes.
And I'm going to jump in if I differ from you in any way.
Well, let's be selectors. Let's get around the table together. Let's come up with it.
Who are you? I think you're Grant Fox.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Foxy.
I'll be Razor.
I'd say we might clash on a few things, but anyway.
Okay, we'll start with props. 6 props in a 35-man squad. Fair?
Allegedly. Well,
are your props?
Probably too many for me, but I do believe I'll probably take 6. But yes, I think
there's lock-ins, aren't there?
Yeah,
Smitey Williams, Fletcher Newell, Lomax and De Groot locked in.
Yep, absolutely.
Bauer?
He's getting closer and closer by the day. I think he is locked in. I think he is.
He's locked in.
Yeah, and then Tossie, I think, because Tossie had such a year last year, they will want to reinvest in the investment, so to speak.
Yeah. So there's your 6.
Yep.
It's a pretty clear-cut 6, I think, and I don't know if you will differ at all, but as we say, always get involved, join the conversation if you think differently. Hookers, they'll take 3, Beav.
Yep.
And pretty self-selected, isn't it, from Grant Fox?
Yeah, it is. It's Taylor, Takiaho, and Amua.
Yeah.
But and I mean, what I will say, though, this year has shown that we have even depth underneath that. When you think Bell, who was, I guess, the surprise inclusion last year in the All Blacks, raised a lot of eyebrows. He's been very, very impressive in the back month. And so you can understand why they've invested there. He's a big body, isn't he, when you see him live, Kirst? So
I think he'll be in there as well because Asafo Aumua's injury that ruled him out of the Hurricanes final game.
Yes.
We have not had an update on that. So I would say that there's potentially a spot there as injury cover.
Gotcha. Yes.
As injury cover. So there's maybe an extra, a 4th in there as well. Locks, Beav, 4 locks.
Yep.
Is that enough?
Well, it has to be, I think, because there's going to be other positions. I think Barrett and Vi, if they hit their straps this year, we could be talking about them as the premier world locking pairing. I think that's because of where Vi's brought his game up to. Obviously, we know Barrett is absolute world class. So Vi this year, I think, will make one part of one of the absolute world's best. Big Paddy makes it as well, of course, Kirst. And then the 4th lock. And then I think you've got room for debate and which way you land on it.
50-50?
Yeah, I would have gone Lord up until probably his injury. And so then all of a sudden, Holland, I think, who has been earmarked, been invested in, I think they probably will want to get him in and have a look at him. He's such a point of difference just from the size, physical around the park. I think they'll go him, Kirst.
Yeah, I reckon they'll probably take them both. And again, one will be named as injury cover. Why does Josh Lord always get a hall pass when it comes to injuries? Whereas Ethan Blackadder, he gets out injured and everyone's like, drop him, nowhere to be seen, he's made of glass. Josh Lord, you're like, no, he's still in there.
Well, I think it's because, I must say it's changing a little, but there was a year or two there behind Brodie and Sam that we were like, where are the next locks? And as soon as Josh Lord emerged, and you got to remember, Josh Lord would have been very close to going to that World Cup in France. He had that wonderful game, I think, against Argentina with a few others. And it's the physical specimen. You know, when you look around world-class locks, they are all absolute specimens as far as height and weight. And Josh Lord is a big unit, Curse. And that's why he's always stood out as someone that All Black fans have sort of said, let's get him in there. Let's carry him through a bit.
I think he's also got time on his hands. He's only 24. He came into the All Blacks environment at such a young age that maybe you think he's a little bit older. He's only 24. He's got another decade. His best years are ahead of him.
Well,
so
truly.
he will be part of this team once. Maybe is it like fast bowlers in cricket? Just because they're still growing into their bodies, that's maybe why he's picked up a few injuries.
Oh, don't mention stress fractures and fast bowlers, Curse. Jeez, it's New Zealand's Achilles heel.
Loose forwards, Mr. Fox.
Yes.
6 loosies in this squad?
Yeah.
Or are you leaning? You want an extra?
I wouldn't mind an extra. Yeah.
Let's talk about the lock-ins. The lock-ins,
Okay.
Adi Savia, Wallace Atiti, Luke Jacobson.
Yep.
I'm saying Ethan Blackadder is a lock-in. There's 4.
Yeah, I would have Peter Lakai as a lock-in.
As opposed to Ethan being a lock-in. Well, we'll give it... So here's mine. Savia, Satiti, Leo Willie, Jacobson, Blackadder and Finau. Where do you differ? You've got Lakai.
I've got Lakai, which probably squeezes out Leo Willie, which is obviously going to be a tough call. I, to be honest with you, and I know this is not going to be popular, especially with Crusaders fans, I find room for Dalton.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So you've got room for Dalton and Peter Lakai.
His last 2 weeks, and when you look at that mix, okay.
Who are your 6s?
Well, who is your 7s? That's my question to you, because we
Artie.
Okay.
Artie's my 7.
Yeah, is it the All Blacks?
And Jacobson.
Is it okay? So you're happy with Luke Jacobson at 7? I've always been happy with Luke Jacobson at 7, but there's also your 6s too, with Blackadder. Obviously.
Blackadder and Finau are my 6s.
Yeah, but you've also got Jacobson, who's played the majority of his series.
That's fine.
Yeah, so there is much utility. No, I just think Dalton makes it. I thought the last 2 weeks of his physicality has been absolutely brilliant again, back to his best. So, yeah, we'd have to talk off air if we could maybe cut someone else
So
out.
you're going to get 7?
I might try and get 7.
You're going to take 7 rather than 6.
Yeah.
So the only difference, so you add Dalton,
Yep.
so you add an extra,
Yep.
and then Lakai makes it instead of Leo Willie for you.
Yep.
And to be fair, we've just named how many? 8 players? They could all make it.
Oh, 100% they could.
And you could add an extra 2 names to that list as well. That could also make it, but just won't fit at the moment.
The real positive thing about the loose forwards is for a few years it's been, well, who are our loose forwards? And what's the mix? Now, there is going to be some outstanding rugby players miss, and that's what you want for the All Blacks.
Yeah, 100%. You want the depth. You want to build depth in every position going into that World Cup because it's actually not that far away. Looking at halfbacks, Beav, 3 halfbacks.
Yep.
Stock standard, or are you throwing a cat amongst the pigeons?
Roigard and Ratama, absolute locked in. And then it's the debate. Do you go more investment in the future with Hotham, or is it Christie? And
I go Hotham.
yeah, I knew you probably would. I'm still leaning towards Christie just because Hotham, I think's going to be our future at some point. But there's a win it right now aspect to this too, and I think Finlay Christie can add to that.
If you're saying a win it right now, Finlay Christie's not in there to be number 3. He's in there to be coming off the bench.
Could be the closer.
But right now, Roigard and Ratuma are a great 1-2 combination for the All Blacks.
Yep.
And Hotham's sitting there developing.
You are watching Ratama play for a very positive mindset of a rugby team at the moment. What I saw last year, Finlay Christie suits the All Blacks more.
So you've got Finlay on the bench against the French.
I've got him involved.
Cortez.
Yeah, I've got him involved. Yeah.
We knew we were going to differ when we've got Grant Fox and Scott Robertson going head to head here.
Different characters.
First fives. You may go 2. I'm picking 3. I'm going Bodie, Damian, and I'm adding Ruben Love in there as a 10.
Yep. That's what he is now for me. He's a 10.
Yeah.
And that's what,
who can cover, of course.
Yeah, no, but
all 3 of them can cover.
Yeah, all 3 of them. But I dare say Love's future in the All Blacks is at 10.
Yeah. Well, we need a third choice 10 going into the Rugby World Cup. Geez, we might need 6 10s. You never know how deep down the list you're going to get, do you?
Well, yes. They reckon you need a few.
4. 4 is the theory. 4 in every position. So we're the same there. 3 first fives. Midfield, 5 midfield. Does that sound right for you?
Yeah.
Or do you take 4 because you've taken an extra Lucy?
No, I'd take 5.
You take 5?
I was possibly going to take one off the outsides, but yeah.
So your lock-ins for the midfield?
The regular 2, Rieko and Geordie, and then ALB is a lock.
Yes.
I feel Proctor's a lock. And then
So the third one, the last one comes down to Quintapaya, David Havili, straight shootout.
Well, and
Tava Nawai?
Nawai.
Is it a 3-horse race?
It's a 3-horse race. Oh, and look, again, how are you going to play? What did you feel that you were lacking last year? You know, all these questions would swing that selection for me, Kirst, because if we are wanting to change how we played a bit or what have you, that will differ things. Like, for example, last year we had no imagination to our not our goal kicking, our general play kicking. So therefore, do you want to have Willie, who we've seen at the international level? You've talked about his influence on Richie, his ability to have those kicks in play and what have you. Or have they said, right, we're wanting to get momentum into our game, so we need a big bash and a crasher. So is Quintapaya or Timothy Tavatavanao become a factor? It's so much around how they want to play, Kirst.
I would love to see Quinn back in the All Blacks, but I just struggle to see how the All Blacks leave out David Havili. Both of them are playing sensational rugby, and Timothy obviously was as well. He's just out of sight, out of mind because he hasn't been playing the last 3 weeks.
No, absolutely, Kirst. And look, yeah.
Who are you taking? You've got to take one extra. I'm taking Havili, and I think Quinn comes in as injury cover for Anton. Is that? Can I do that?
That's how you're getting around
another
it.
Bracket.
That's how you're getting around it.
Quinn's there as injury cover.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if you.
Who have you got as your 5th?
Oh, probably Havili.
You've got Havili as well. Outside backs. Now, you'll have 4 outsides because you've taken an extra Lucy. So give us your 4.
Well, I'm going Jordan, Clark, Sevu.
Yeah.
And my 4th one, I can't not have Tavatavanao in this team.
Fair enough.
I just can't have someone who's played like he has. And, okay, I'll pick him as an outside, but knowing full well what he can do in the midfield.
Okay. I've gone the same as you. Jordan, Clark, Sevu, and Moni Narua.
Yes.
Who you've left out after saying how good a form he's been in. But we know you often contradict yourself.
Yes.
I've got Narua. And then my 5th and final, he's a bolter.
Tell me who it is.
Look, I'm just going to be bold and brave here. One of those Sevens boys will make it as a winger. Leroy Carter or Fehe Fine Anganofo.
What about Tangitau?
We don't know the injury prognosis, do we?
No.
Is he all good?
I think he's on the mend.
I think one of the Sevens boys will make it.
Why not?
As the X factor.
Why not?
Why not? Why not you?
Why not you? Now, look, I can't imagine they were listening to us, the All Black selectors, so there'll be some changes to that. But there you go.
There you go. There is our All Black 35-man squad. We know you'll have your own thoughts, but in 5 days' time, that will officially be named Monday after the final. And so we'll be able to come back here and see how the selectors went.
And can I say, as a selector, my final team will not be put on paper until after the final because it has frustrated me immensely that there was a time that we were naming our All Black team before the final. There's no other more high-pressure game than the final. So if someone stands up massively in the final, I think that has huge bearing on what then goes on at selection time come Monday. It might not, but I think...
There you go, Leroy Carter.
Leroy Carter, man
you
of the
can play
match.
your way in.
I tell you what, looking at him on Saturday night from a big occasions sort of situation, nothing's phasing him.
How fast is he in real life?
Well, he's faster than the Colonel. I saw him doing a run at half-time with the Colonel, and he was quicker than the Colonel. No, look, I don't know. But he doesn't seem to get caught, does he?
Never. He doesn't. He's got so many strings to his bow, that guy. Okay, this is it. This is the time. It's our grand final predictions. Beaver's actually out of the running. So Beaver was... like the Highlanders, basically. He was out 3 weeks ago, unfortunately. There was no fairy tale story. There was no fairy tale finish for Beaver in 2025. I'm 3 ahead with 1 game to go. So basically unbeatable. You can't touch me, Beav. I will have my scallops delivered, please and thank you. I don't even know when scallop season is, but I'll have them. I know you found a good bed down there in the Coromandel.
You can't take them in the Coromandel at the moment, but I
okay.
Yeah, I can.
Well, wherever you found your bed,
I can get them from the Manukau for you. Look, they'll obviously listen to you as far as the tipsters go because you are, as you said, 3 weeks ahead of me. And how dare you to put the Highlanders in my tipping bracket? They'll be horrified. But I'm going to go for Chiefs. Of course, I'm going to go for Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs will win because of the guy in the number 10 jersey and because that they have finally learnt their finals lessons.
Either way, you can't lose with the result of this game and the storylines. It would be boring if we both went the same way. My heart, the area that I live in, is Chiefs country. We know that. But I'm going to go opposite you, Beav. 32-0, 15th straight title. It'll be the Crusaders celebrating on Saturday night.
Yeah, look, I just can't wait. The rugby
exactly.
lover, the rugby lover in me thinks this is going to be a beauty. Neutrals will tune in, obviously, as well. It is going to be something else. That Ford battle and the collisions that are going to unfold is going to be special. It's going to be the times that you realise, geez, it's nice to be sitting on your couch watching this.
I would love nothing more, though, than Clayton to go out, Sean Stevenson, Damian to get redemption from the last couple of years. I would love nothing more than seeing the Chiefs win down there in Christchurch.
Well, we will find out. Find out.
Rugby wins, don't they? Rugby wins.
Rugby.
The fan wins.
Rugby will be the winner. Beautiful. Unless the referee has too much influence. So don't let him.
And look,
if
someone stands out in the final, they may push their way into the All Blacks, and they may push their way into the name of this baby that's going to be popping out in the next couple of days. Still looking for a name. So if you stand out, maybe there will be a baby named after you.
Well, I don't know if you've seen all the social media coverage, but there was fans at Waikato Stadium naming their pregnant wife's soon-to-be child after the great company of grins, and going to call them either Damian or McKenzie if it's a boy or a girl.
I did see that. So, look, Damian, if you have a blinder this week, maybe there'll be 2. Maybe there'll be 2 children named after you in that Grins company. That is us on the Aftermatch. Like and subscribe, share everything and get the word out there. We'll be back next week, Beav, to do it all again.